Priya heard the conversation from 6 feet away, and she told herself it was not her place to say anything. She was 24 years old, 3 months into her first real job, and the man doing the talking was her director. She had spent the morning arranging champagne flutes on a silver tray and making sure the small gold placards beside each painting were perfectly level. It had felt like important work that morning. Now she was not so sure. The woman at the door had arrived at 10 minutes past 6. Just as the preview was filling with the right kind of people, the collector's Derek Ashford had spent 3 weeks personally courting the foundation trustees he treated like royalty, the journalist from the Regional Arts Quarterly, who always described the gallery in warm, reverent terms. The woman was not on Derek's list. Priya had checked it twice. She was black, perhaps 45, in a well-cut charcoal blazer and dark slacks, a leather portfolio case tucked under one arm. She moved without hurry. She stopped at the threshold, took in the room with a steady sweep of her eyes, and said to Derek in a voice pitched just for him, "Good evening. Celeste Okafor, Whitmore Arts Council. I should be on your list." Derek Ashford was the kind of man who had run this gallery for 18 years and believed that the 18 years entitled him to a particular reading of the room. He gave the woman a brief, courteous smile, the kind that said he had already decided. "I'm afraid this evening is a private collector preview," he said. "Invitation only. We're quite particular about the guest count. I'm sure you understand." "I have an appointment in my calendar," she said, still level. "There may have been a communication gap on your end." Derek had the list in his hand. He made a small show of consulting it. "I don't see an Okafor," he said. "Again, I'm sure you understand. Perhaps you could contact our office in the morning." Priya watched the woman hold his gaze for a moment. Not angry, not pleading, just looking at him with a kind of patient, settled attention, as though she were noting something she would need to remember. "Your name?" she asked. Derek blinked once, but he gave it. "Ashford. Derek Ashford. I'm the gallery director." "Thank you," the woman said. She glanced once past him into the room, at the paintings on the white walls with their small gold placards that Priya had straightened. Then she nodded once, turned, and walked back out through the glass doors into the evening. The doors whispered shut. Derek smoothed his jacket and turned back to the room, already moving toward the journalist with his warmest greeting. The champagne glasses caught the light. The small gold placards were still perfectly level. Priya stood very still beside the tray, and something she could not quite name settled wrong inside her chest. She told herself again that it was not her place. She was 3 months in. She knew what a job cost to find, but she thought about the way the woman had said thank you, the precision of it, the complete absence of heat, and she could not stop thinking about it for the rest of the evening. The preview ended at 9. The right collectors went home with catalogs under their arms. The journalist took 2 business cards. Derek poured himself a final glass and called it a fine evening. At 9:17, Priya began wiping down the champagne trays. She was the last one in the front room. At 9:22, her phone buzzed with the gallery's general inbox, forwarding a message to all staff. Derek had connected the gallery's contact form to an auto-forward so he could monitor inquiries from home. Priya saw the subject line and stopped wiping. She read the message 3 times. It was from the grants coordinator at the Whitmore Arts Council. It informed the Linden Gallery that, effective immediately, this council was opening a formal compliance review of the gallery's $280,000 annual operating grant. Pending the review, the next quarterly disbursement, $70,000, scheduled for release the following Friday, would be suspended. The review would be personally overseen by the council's chief grants officer. The letter cited as the triggering condition a site visit conducted that evening. At the bottom of the letter, below the signature line, was a title, Chief Grants Officer, Whitmore Arts Council, and a name. Dr. Celeste Okafor. Priya set the cloth down on the tray. She read the name again. The Linden Gallery received $280,000 a year from the Whitmore Arts Council. It said so on the plaque by the front door, right next to the hours of operation. Priya had read that plaque her first day. The gallery's programs, the youth outreach she had heard Derek describe to trustees, the community artist residency series, the free public lecture nights, depended on that money. Derek talked about the council's support in every speech she had heard him give. She thought about the woman in the charcoal blazer, the patience in her voice. "Your name?" She had asked it calmly, the way someone asks a question they already know the value of. Priya printed the letter. It was not her place to call Derek. He would see the auto-forward the moment he opened his phone. But someone needed to put the paper on his desk before morning, and she was the last one there. She walked the length of the gallery, past the perfectly level placards, past the paintings the right collectors had admired, and set the printed letter squarely in the center of Derek Ashford's desk blotter, she turned off the lights and let herself out. The formal compliance review took 3 weeks, Doctor. Okafor's team examined the gallery's grant disbursement records, its public programming documentation, and its practices around community access and equitable engagement, the specific terms on which the annual grant had been awarded. They interviewed staff. They reviewed event access logs going back 2 years. The review's findings were delivered to the Whitmore Arts Council Board at a regularly scheduled meeting. The board voted to require the gallery to produce a corrective action plan within 60 days, addressing specific deficiencies in its documented community access practices. Until the plan was reviewed and accepted by the council, the grant would remain under conditional status and disbursements would continue to be held. The board also noted, in the formal record, that the triggering site visit had been conducted without incident, that the council's representative had been turned away from a publicly funded event without reasonable cause, and that this would be factored into the ongoing review of the gallery's community accountability practices. Derek Ashford was placed on administrative leave the morning after the compliance findings were delivered to the board. A statement was released by the gallery's own board of directors. It expressed the institution's full cooperation with the Whitmore Arts Council's review, its commitment to the terms of the grant, and its sincere apologies. It announced that an interim director would manage operations while the corrective action plan was developed. Priya was in the front room when the statement was released. She read it on her phone. She was straightening a catalog display, which did not particularly need straightening, but her hands needed something to do. 3 days later, Dr. Celeste Okafor returned to the Linden Gallery. She came through the front door at 10 in the morning, unhurried, the same leather portfolio under her arm. She was shown to the conference room. She spent 2 hours reviewing records with the interim director and the gallery's programming coordinator. When she came out, she paused in the front room. Priya was at the reception desk. She looked up. Dr. Okafor looked at her for a moment. She did not ask whether Priya had been there the evening of the preview. She seemed to have already accounted for what people will and will not do on the first night they see something wrong. "Nice space," she said simply, looking at the paintings on the white walls. "Worth keeping." She walked out through the glass doors. Priya sat with that for a while. Worth keeping. Not the building, she thought. Not the Ashford collection, or the champagne preview, or the 18 years of Derek's particular reading of the room. The work on the walls, the youth outreach, the residency series, the free public lectures that she had set up chairs for twice and that had been, on both evenings, full. That was the thing the grant was for. That was the thing a fair review would protect. And it was still there, waiting, in an institution that now had 60 days to prove it understood why. Priya straightened the catalog display again. This time it needed it. She did it carefully, making sure every cover faced the same direction, making sure there was enough room for anyone who walked in through the front door to reach out and take one, anyone at all.